As a disclaimer, in this episode we talk about sex toys and masturbation. Please be mindful if you find these topics as triggers or do not consider them appropriate around certain age groups or individuals.
Did you say dildo? Did you say dildo?
She said meat. You heard dildo. Who said meat?
I know what she said, but I feel like you said old dildo.
Oh, no.
She said, oh no.
I said, oh no, you heard dildo. Y'all, I was not a part of that.
As Black women, we have been bound by ideas told to us, ideas that were strong suggestion that were not to be veered away from, ideas that stifle our creativity and limit us to boxes. These ideas mold us into the societal view of perfection for who or what we should be. We have been told in not so many words that our bodies are not our own, and so we treat them as such. Well, it's time for us to reconnect to ourselves. Join me as I gather with friends and professionals to talk about the many facets of Black pleasure. This is part of our healing and the discovery and exploration of who we are and who we desire to be. There is liberation in pleasure. Let's journey on this pathway together. Hi, welcome. Thanks for coming back to the Black Pleasure series, or Pleasure Is series. I am joined again today with two lovely young people in my life, and we're going to talk about sex toys. May is Masturbation Month, and in honor of that, we got to talk about some things that you will see here on the table, and some other things. But at any rate, I would like to introduce my two special guests, Sandra and Kanita. Would you like to tell the people who you are?
So, hi everyone. My name is Dr. Sandra Banjoko, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and my specialties are in sex therapy and eating disorders.
Thank you, Ayanna. Thank you for calling me young.
I
love it.
You are.
I'm taking it.
Yeah.
I embrace that. Okay. I'm Kanita Bourne, licensed clinical social worker, and my specialty is, I'm not amazing like this doc over here in the eating disorders. No, thank you. But my specialty is breaking generational curses, which some of that is tied into pleasure and sex and families individually. So that's where I am right now. And I am working on my sex therapy certification.
Yes. Love it. Thank you both for being here. I'm so excited. As you all know, my name's Ayanna Davison, certified nurse midwife. And midwives talk about pleasure too. So there's that. Which is why we're having this conversation. So I think one of the last conversations we had, we talked about what is pleasure, what is sexual pleasure. I don't want to dive into that because we had a pretty lengthy conversation about it. But like, can you touch on sexual pleasure and what it means, maybe for you or for your practice or for the people that you want to reach?
I would say that sexual pleasure is necessary, right? And when I think sexual pleasure based on that question, I'm thinking partnered sexual pleasure. And I'm not 100% sure where my mind is going there, but it is. Because because I think it's easier to have sexual pleasure alone, but with partners, it could be a little trickier because the sexual pleasure might also come with an increased need for communication. Yeah. And sometimes that's a little bit difficult. So I would say necessary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I think about sexual pleasure, I think the first thing that came to me was freedom. And I think we talked about that last time too. Yeah, and just the idea of being free enough to let pleasure happen, be it alone or be it with somebody else. Just freedom. Because I don't think you can experience pleasure at its core without some form of surrender. And without surrender, you can't be free. Without freedom, you really can't experience pleasure. Yeah.
Yes.
I like that. I like that. I think too, I've been circling around the thought of sexual pleasure being our right. So that kind of like aligns a little bit with freedom and the necessity. not that, and I was gonna say not that anyone's taken away from us, but it's been taken away from specifically women and Black women, and so like it is our right to feel great and to have an orgasm or not have an orgasm or feel sensual in our bodies, and so I think sexual pleasure in this moment right now for me translates to our right, our birthright, part of who we are as humans. Like it's innate, you know. But it's been taken away from us. And so that's why we're having these conversations, so we can kind of get back to us. So I love that. I love that. So I like this little discussion, and we're going to segue to the meat of why we're here.
And when you say, did you say oh dildo? Did you say dildo?
She said meat. You heard dildo. She said meat.
I know what she said, but I feel like you said oh dildo.
Oh, no.
She said, oh, no.
I said, oh, no, you heard dildo. Y'all, I was not a part of that. I just want to put it out there.
And I didn't even mean, I truly meant like the theme, the crux, if you will, of why we are here.
I mean, and if you want to say oh dildo, that's okay too.
Listen, that's what we're here for. I'm here for all of it. I just wanted to be known where I came in. Okay.
So we have a wide variety of toys on the table, but do you have anything that you want to say to somebody who maybe never had experience with toys or basic knowledge? Like, what are the foundations of toys, would you say? Like, you know, we don't have to have them. We have our hands, we have shower heads, we have different things that could be utilized to help stimulate pleasure. Yeah. But we also have these fun toys. So, like, what would you say?
Yeah, I don't know why this came to me. It was just the idea of, like, having ice cream. And sometimes, you know, you're okay with that vanilla, and sometimes you wanna add some topping.
Yeah, some sprinkles.
You know, yeah, some sprinkles. You know, just wanna, like how they do it at Cold Stone. You just wanna
mix
mix it in, right?
Mix-ins.
Thank you. Yeah. So I feel like sex toys are just like mix-ins. It's like, yes, it's your partner is enough. Yes, your hands are enough. Yes, pillows can be enough. But like even incorporating a pillow in the sense you're
using it to spice up your
you know? Yeah. And so it's just like not, and I think the biggest thing is like being free with it and just allowing yourself to explore and think of it as like a fun activity. And you don't have to start off with like a dildo, you know.
This does not have to be.
It doesn't have to be where you start.
Where you begin.
No, it does not. Baby steps. It could be. It could be. You know,
but also it may look very terrifying to someone who's never like, you know, they're like, you know, scrolling through. Yeah. You see all these tiny things, which don't. Some of the tiny things can also be.
Say, a bullet can do amazing things. Yeah, and so maybe it's a little bullet. And I know for some people they're like, I don't want to do it alone, and maybe it's like finding something you do with a partner. I know our lovely person over here, brought like a wee vibe, and so like that is also a thing too. So it's kind of like just like finding out things and trying things and just going to a sex shop and just like. And if you don't want to go into a sex shop, like even just going on Amazon
or PeepShow Toys,
or
PeepShowToys.com.
Amen. Yep. And just like figuring things out. Like there's so many things and there's so many places you can start from. But yeah.
I mean, I love the concepts of toys because it brings me back to childhood, right? I mean, let me say that very differently.
Okay. I understood you in my mind, but to clarify for people.
But to clarify to the people,
of course.
When I say toys, I mean, you know, kids play with toys like G.I. Joes and different Barbies, different things like that. Not saying that kids are playing with sex toys. Right. I'm not saying that. Right.
You got it.
So, but it just brings me back to a time where we were able to be free and just explore life through imagination, through play.
This is what we did touch on this the last time, and I remember you saying like, why not as an adult? Yeah. Why don't we have the ability to play?
Yeah. Why are we limiting ourselves? And listen, I'm all for masturbation with hands, right? And I actually think masturbation with our own hands or our own body parts connects us to our masturbation, which I think is actually very important. But there is something to be said to exploring what the toys have to offer. I remember my first time walking in a shop on West 4th in New York.
I was like,
Okay. And it was, I mean, it was such an amazing experience because could be a little bit overwhelming, but such an amazing experience because you're walking in and you're like, oh my goodness, it's literally like a kid in a candy store. Like, oh, what's this? What's that? What does this do? You know, and it just gives you the freedom to decide, what do I like? What do I want to try to see if I like this thing? You have edible underwear. You remember when edible underwear was like a huge thing?
Big thing.
It was a big thing.
I didn't understand
was that like
it.
10 years ago?
It was a little bit more than
Are you
10
trying to
years
date
ago.
us?
I'm not outrageous. She already called me young, so I'm going with that vibe. Okay, let's be clear. But it was a big, and you remember Spencer Gifts? Like,
Oh, yes.
Oh my goodness.
edible
yeah.
underwear was like so huge, and it just gave you the opportunity to say, let's try something different than regular vanilla. Give me the sprinkles.
Hey,
Yeah, add it on.
hey, makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I think again going back to that play concept, I think sometimes sex is just like this one thing, or the ice cream concept. It's just this one thing that you're doing, and you're not really experiencing anything else. You know. Also, I find that most of the toys are targeted, or the marketing for toys, it appears that it's targeted a lot to women, cis women. And the great reality of this is it's not just for cis women. Like, these are things that, you know, we mentioned we can use with a partner. If you're not in a heterosexual relationship, you can still use with a partner. And there are things that people with a penis or, you know, testicles can use to have fun, you know? Someone else may not walk into the store as like emphatically or energetically as you. Where would you say for folks, like, how should they start looking at this if they're looking to invite this into either their own sensual or intimacy journey, or their partner journey? Like, where would you start with that discussion? Take your time, please. No pressure. Like, seriously, no pressure. Because it's like things we have to think about, you know? I don't even know, you know. To share my own personal truth, I feel like for a long time it was like, it would be cool if if I invited these things in. But then there's also like a taboo side in my head from, you know, foundations and your upbringing, religion. But then as you get older, it's like the doors for things maybe open, your eyes widen a little bit, your experiences, your discussions with your girlfriends. So with all that being said.
I think with couples, it's just inviting the conversation, right? Like, when I work with couples, I like to structure things, right? Like, maybe once a month you have an hour or 15 minutes where you can talk about anything and you can invite anything into the conversation with no judgment. And the reason that I like to invite them to do this is for the reasons you stated, because in the back of our minds, we're thinking, a lot of us are thinking, if I tell my partner this is what I want to try, they gon' I'm like, what kind of person am I with, right? But if you give yourself, even if it's just 15 minutes a month, to say, hey, during our next playtime, I want to try, you know, anal fisting. I don't know why that just came to my mind. See, but look at your face, right?
I had built up this couple in my head.
Yeah, I know that just
where they
threw
were
them
started.
off.
But that's, you know,
That's okay.
Because
That's
I
okay.
don't know what level I'm coming into.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know why
They might
anal
have been
fisting
using
is
something else
is on my
already.
mind.
Yeah.
But it is, right? And then you also give the opportunity to veto, or the opportunity to say yes, but not right now. Maybe not anal fisting, but maybe we can try a toy, right? And just the opportunity to explore.
Yeah.
She said, not the fisting. That's not where it was
I
going to
just.
go. I'm sorry.
No, I love it. I was thinking too in terms of like asking yourself, okay, like what is it okay? I think like having that honest conversation with yourself and asking yourself, okay, why am I against it? Why am I for it? And what do I want to get out of it? You know? And then I think from there, like if it's just like I just want to see what it feels like doing your research, finding out like, and you could even look at, because I think a lot of people think, oh, if I get a vibrator, it has to be like a wand. It could be anything from like looking at their toys that are low vibration, that the highest is actually a low. That you can find a medium vibration toy. Like there's so many levels to it, and just starting easy. And it's okay to build yourself up, and it's okay to start with like something that you're like, oh, I want to try this glass dildo.
Yeah.
If that's your first, if you want to try that, and you're like, and you can go down from there. Like there's no, you get to set the pace because you have agency and you get to do it yourself, and it's just about believing that you can and that it's okay. Yeah.
And when we're talking heterosexual couples, I've experienced that a lot of times women don't want to invite the conversation of sex toys because they feel like their man is going to feel emasculated. And I've seen it also where men have said, oh, she doesn't need that, you know, I'm enough, I'm all she needs. And that honestly shuts down, or possibly could shut down, a woman from even inviting this conversation. So one thing for a couple that I think is amazing, and we talked about the Weave app, I'm going to pick it up real quick because I think it's awesome because it's very unassuming,
Right.
as the people
Just
say.
looks like a you.
It's a you,
Yeah.
and it's for you. and it's not even for you. It's
Right.
for we.
Yeah.
And that's that name
Love
is
it.
is We
We
Vibe
Vibe.
because it's for partnered sex in a really a heterosexual relationship. And the inside, how does it go? This way, right? So this part is inside, and this one is on top of
Inside where?
the vagina.
Okay.
Good. You know what? That's a great question.
It is.
It is
I
valid.
mean,
yes,
yeah.
because there are many orifices.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, we'll circle back around to this, but like instructional use for toys. But continue.
Right. So this goes inside, and this is on the top of the woman's clitoris. And the idea is that when it's inside and you turn it on, can we hear vibration on this? I don't know. No? Okay. Either way, you see what's happening.
Yeah.
So he's getting the vibration while he's, inside, and then she's getting it directly on her clitoris as well. And it's for penetrative sex. So he's feeling all the loves and tingles, and you can change the settings. And again, very non-assuming with partnered sex.
Yeah, especially, just to add to that, because I don't think we talk a lot about how a lot of women do not orgasm from just penile vaginal sex. And so it's not about you trying to like erase him from the equation, but saying like, I want us to come together. This is something that we can do I could get off, you can get off, and it's not that you're not enough. We're just adding something that's just like spicing it up
It's like
a
an
little bit.
enhancement.
It's an enhancement, yeah.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to use this, but like it's fun when you do.
Yeah.
You get a chance to explore something different. Thank you for saying that too, because in my discussions with other girlfriends or people that I meet on the street, colleagues, I think the impression for many folks, and I'm gonna just be a little bit assumptive or make a little bit of an assumption, is that like we're supposed to have an orgasm from penetrative sex. And when I say we, folks with a vagina or vulva who are having penetrative sex are only supposed to orgasm that way, or that's what's supposed to happen. And the fact of the matter is the vast majority of folks are clitorally stimulated, or that's where their orgasm comes from. So it's important to know too yourself, and you can discover this with a partner or on your own. Like I think that's the other thing too, is like there are no really big bounds unless you place them there. And so it boils down to your values, your own perception of things, but there is sort of this limitlessness in pleasure, and we're starting like here and going up here.
Yeah.
So yeah, really there are no bounds except for the bounds that you put on yourself.
Yeah.
And that comes with time and exploration and discovery, which we tend to like slap people's hands away from, depending on where you're born, raised, your culture, your religion, all of that. So again, this conversation is so that we can help people open up, especially Black women, open up the discussion about like, how am I pleased? Like, how do I find pleasure? And having like these opportunities to use other things to enhance what they have to begin with. So.
What are some of the hygiene principles we should keep in mind?
The first one that came to me is if you started in the back, do not put it in the front. Just don't do it.
Please
Don't do it.
Or you'll be calling.
Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah,
I think we forget because you're in the moment, things are heated, and you're just like, okay, I'm just gonna take, that vibrator from my butt and just like, put it in the front.
It's
Do
a
not.
setup.
It's a setup to fail. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Just like you would write front to back, we cannot go back to front.
No, just don't do that.
Correct. Okay.
I love that because that's so important.
Yeah, very.
It's a very good principle.
Very good pleasure principles.
Yeah.
And I would say wash your toys,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
With soap. And a gentle cleanser, but you want to wash off because it's bodily fluids. I think everybody, most of the time when they're engaging with bodily fluids, they're washing, right? We go to the gym, we sweat, we come home, we take a shower. You don't want your sex toys to be in or on some type of bodily fluid and then just put it down there and then take it up again for, like, that's where bacteria grows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So wash them.
Washing, positioning of where we use the toys and then where we use them again. And then also reading instructions is important too, which I found pretty handy is some of the toys you can actually sterilize in your own oven. So like just pay attention to what those are. Most of the silicone based ones, depending on what mechanism is inside and on a very low setting. So just kind of read through your little manual. I know sometimes we skip over that part.
And I love that you said that because I, by nature, am not an instruction reader.
Yeah, I understand.
You can go figure it out.
Right? It's like, I bought this because this goes here and I'm going to figure out how to use it here. So this is my first time actually ever hearing that you can sterilize a toy in an oven.
Absolutely.
Very low setting.
I mean, I don't know that I would do that
Right.
because,
I mean,
again,
you
I
still-
also don't like instructions and I probably would put it on 400 and then I have no more home. So...
Yeah, we don't want that.
No.
Yeah, we don't want that. No.
But I love that that's an actual thing and it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes, please. I'm like you. I typically don't. I'm just be like, how? What? Where does this go? Okay. However, yes, some of the toys. So be careful with what you choose to put in the oven and the settings. And-
read the instructions.
And you're
Or
yes.
with the oven thing, I've heard that sometimes you can boil.
Yes, also.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
boiling
sometimes
hot
you can
water,
boil.
yeah.
And again, I think you still want to clean off the toy first after use, and then you're proceeding to sanitize. There are some sex toy cleansers that you can use, which is great. Also, in safety tips too, just to know, like, we want you to be careful with where you place certain things. I'm not going to dictate how you use them, but I do want you to be very careful and cautious with like placement, just because sometimes we put things in and because of the vascularity of tissue and swelling and elasticity, sometimes it goes in well and doesn't come out as great. So like just be mindful of what you're doing, where it's going, and but also have a good time.
I'm going to just say, when we are talking anus play with toys, you want to 100% of the time be using lubricant,
Yes, absolutely.
right? Like that's a no negotiation.
Right.
No negotiation. Because, I mean, the anus is not like the vagina. It's not self-lubricating. So if you're going to put something in, you do want to make sure it's well
Lubricated. Yeah, absolutely. That's another thing too. I think in one of our pleasure series before, we talked about like someone being given a whole case of like lubricant and it's like, what do you do with this? However, like there's a time and place for that. Like sometimes, you know, for anything that's going in the anus, you do need a well lubricated toy. Sometimes when you're the rose, which a lot of folks are into these days,
Yes, very popular.
very, very popular, should and I say that knowing it's a judgment word, but also like should be used with lubricant. That's also important to keep in mind as well. You don't have to, but honestly, it's probably the best option. Some of the toys are just designed and move better and glide better.
I was gonna say, like we underestimate the value of lube. I think there's also this idea that if I'm not wet enough, I should be wet enough to get myself off, and that's not true.
Right.
Please have lube. I think every household should just have lube in the nights.
Yeah.
Just
Just buy it.
Just buy it.
Just have it.
Yeah,
just have it.
Yeah.
PeepShowToys.com.
Exactly.
These recordings are in paid sponsorship with PeepShow Toys. PeepShow Toys is an immigrant-run small business focused on providing their community with body-safe toys made of non-toxic materials, inclusive and accessible to all.